It was not just the engagement ring, it was a wedding ring as well.
The boys drank in several pubs, but settled eventually in the Dean's house.
Could you get 3 pints of beer, please? Yeah.
Adam had been texting me while he was out to tell me he'd seen a dog in the pub, just usual nonsense. He was sending me pictures of him and his cousin. Just seemed like a normal night out.
But unbeknown to Adam and his cousins, a group of 5 motorcyclists were in town that night. One of them, riding a green and white Kawasaki, broke away and headed to a pub called the Old Mill.
At that time, there was 2 people on that motorcycle. There was a rider and a pillion passenger. The pillion passenger appears to be getting off the bike and looking into the windows of the Old Mill public house as if he was looking for someone. And then they get back onto the motorcycle and drive off. At that time, Adam Ellison was just leaving the Dean's house. As he reached the junction of Marketplace and Eccleston Street, the green and white Kawasaki has appeared, and it appears to have driven at Adam and his friends and come very close to hitting them, but turning away at the last minute.
Adam and his cousins were angry.
They've shouted at the motorcycle, which drove about 50 yards down the road and pulls up. Adam went and spoke to the pillion passenger. The pillion passenger then swung the punch at Adam.
Adam fell to the floor. At first, his cousins thought he'd just been punched, but he'd been stabbed.
The pillion passenger got back onto the motorcycle, which drove off down towards Sewell Street.
Adam was left fighting for his life and was rushed to hospital.
When we got there, he had tubes into the sides. They had a clamp here where they tried to stop the bleeding. They'd used 8 pints of blood on him to try and save him. They were about to give up on him, and we're all screaming and shouting and saying, no, please don't give up on him. He's a strong lad. He's a strong lad.
He was taken through these doors, and there was police, there was people working on in the room, and all I remember is 2 doors sliding open. And I went in the room. My dad backed out. I went in the room. He was lay on the bed and they were working on him, and I touched his leg and shouted, don't you dare leave us. My mum was pleading with him, and our Nicola was shouting to him to come back, and my dad was just breaking his heart outside. It was too late. He was gone.
One of the nurses just took my hand and took me round to the side of him. She sat me down and she put his hand in mine. And that's when the doctors had said that he'd died.
I wouldn't like anybody to go through what we went through that night. Nobody should lose a child before themselves.
Adam was just 29 years old.
I held him when he was minutes old, and he was still all sticky and baby-like and lovely. And I held him when he died. This was wrong.
Such an appalling case there, and Detective Chief Inspector John Middleton joins me now. We heard in the film there, John, that there were lots of bikes riding around that area before Adam was attacked, but this is the one that's actually similar to the one that Adam's killer was riding on, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. There was 5 motorcycles in the area of Prescott that night riding around the Old Mill public house. There was 3 road motorbikes, 2 of which we know were stolen, and 2 off-road motorcycles, one of which being very similar to this green and white Kawasaki KX85 big wheel motorbike that was being ridden by Adam's killers. They are quite a common motorcycle, but the one we're looking for has no stickers. It's purely green and white. We don't know why the motorcycles were in the area that night. They may have been just looking to engage in antisocial behaviour, but they could have been looking for someone. As you've just seen in the film, the pillion passenger on the Kawasaki motorcycle did actually get off and look in through the window of the Old Mill public house.
And you'd like more information about what happened to the bike after Adam was attacked?
Yes, we have information to suggest that the bike was sold on after the murder. So somebody might have actually purchased this motorcycle not knowing what it'd been involved in.
Do we know where Adam's killer went after the attack?
The attack actually happened on Market Place in Prescott, and the motorcycle made off towards Sewell Street, which is in the direction of Huyton and Liverpool.
Now, there's also a question around some burned clothing, isn't there?
Yeah, we have intelligence to suggest that the offenders burnt their clothing after the attack. Now, if anyone's got any more information about that, we'd like to hear from them.
And a specific witness that you're keen to speak to?
Yeah, I mean, we're keen to speak to anyone that was in the vicinity of the Old Mill public house on that night and may have seen Adam, who'd been in the pub, or those motorcycles that were circulating in the area. But specifically, there was a young woman inside the pub who's seen on CCTV. We'd very much like to speak to her.
And did you think this was a targeted attack?
No, I don't think it's targeted at all. I think Adam was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was trying to defend himself and his friends, and unfortunately came across somebody who was carrying a knife.
Which is just terrible, isn't it? Thanks very much, John. We'll pick up with you again later in the programme. Rav, back to you.
Thanks, Michelle. If you do have any information which could help bring Adam's killer to justice, please do the right thing and pick up the phone now. The numbers are on your screen. Next, do you recognise any of today's criminals caught on CCTV? Just so you know, a couple of these are pretty serious. A freezing March night in south-east London, and these two aren't looking for shelter from the snow. A shop assistant is about to get the shock of his life. One waves a sword, whilst the other goes behind the counter and grabs a few cigarettes. The staff member is told to open the till and obliges. Threatened with a samurai sword, the employee helps the other offender clear the contents of the till. Satisfied that the cash desk is now empty, he puts his sword away. Turning their attention to the tobacco, the worker is forced to hold a bag that is filled with products. Chuffed with their stash, they make a run for it. Take a good look at this pair who took around £700 in cash. Do you recognise them? Names, please. It's 3 days before Christmas in London at a fast food restaurant. What happens next is shocking. In a flash, a man is stabbed twice around the shoulder area. Seeking refuge, he jumps over the counter as staff step away, terrified by what they've just witnessed. Take another look at this pair carrying knives as one lunges towards the victim. He received 2 minor stab wounds and a swollen hip. We know it was over quickly, but do you recognise either of these two? Names, please. Take a good look at this hooded pair. They disappear, but it's not long before they're back. These employees are just about to start their working week in Bristol, but it's disrupted by the duo. Turns out they're both armed. One of them flashes a knife, whilst the other uses a gun to threaten staff. Forcing one of the workers to open the room containing the dosh, they then bring in the other 2 employees. Finding what they're after, they open the safe and grab pile after pile of cash, taking everything they can. They wave a gun before they're gone in a flash, leaving the staff traumatised. We know one of them is completely masked, but do you recognise either of these two? It's Friday lunchtime in East London. This man, who's just got off the bus, is about to get a nasty shock. A bloke cycles past and kicks him in the shin. He then jumps off his bike and punches the man across the face. They continue to argue. The victim might not look that hurt, but he suffered 2 fractures to his jaw. The suspect pedals away towards Bethnal Green. Do you recognise this hooligan on a bike? If you know anyone caught on camera there, you know what to do, as well as the free phone number 08000 468 999. You can text us on 63399, text crime, leave a space and then type your message. Text will be charged at your standard message rate. Or you can send us an email, that's the address there, cwr@bbc.co.uk.
And if you want to know how to get the most of your CCTV cameras, we have some useful tips from the Met Police's specialist team coming up later. First, though, it's back to Michelle.
Merseyside's Liverpool docks are home to a rather unusual special ship called the Altia 2. Now, this is actually the training vessel for Border Force's specialist search team who hunt out drugs being smuggled into the UK. We were invited on board to see them in action.
Each year, millions of pounds worth of drugs and contraband are seized from ships in ports around the UK. With such huge sums up for grabs, the smugglers are getting better and better at hiding their wares. It's a cat-and-mouse battle between the criminals and border officials. But the UK has a crack team at its disposal. And here in Merseyside, they're led by David Smith.
Our work is vital to protecting the UK economy. Our work is vital to protecting the UK from harm from particularly illegal drugs such as cocaine and heroin.
The National Deep Rummage Team seek out caches of contraband hidden on huge commercial vessels, often in tight spaces.
Some of the spaces that you go into are so small that you have to exhale to move. So you have to make sure that you're not claustrophobic or afraid of those sorts of spaces.
Since it was formed, the Deep Rummage Team has seized cocaine worth over £1.8 billion. But the job is not for the faint-hearted.
Searching commercial vessels like the National Deep Rummage Teams do is arguably one of the toughest jobs in Border Force. We have to have yearly medicals to make sure that we are physically fit enough to do it. We have to pass training courses, and if we don't pass them, we can't stay on the teams. So it is the most arduous, the most difficult training and the most difficult and arduous job that is in Border Force. I love it.
Today's training exercise in Liverpool's Docklands is for existing Border Force agents, some of whom are hoping to become part of this elite team.
So don't take the kitchen sink with you, just take a torch, snap-on screwdriver.
The trainees are split into two teams and given an imaginary scenario. A cargo boat docked at port with hidden contraband on board. The race is on to find it as quickly as possible.
It's the first time they've ever been into a ship's cabin and searched it before. What they're trying to find is space. Don't teach them to find particular things, because that's not the way we work. So what the moment they're doing is trying to find all the spaces they can in that cabin where something could be hidden.
The first victory goes to Team B, who find a suspicious-looking package.
On lifting the chessboard, noticed that there was something loose inside. So, unscrewing it, you found a drugs hide inside the bottom of the chessboard.
We haven't quite found anything yet, which is a little bit frustrating, but we're still persevering.
But there's success at last for Team A, who locate a package inside the lining of an immersion suit.
Well done. Not everybody finds that. Most people miss it because they just pat the item down and you can't feel anything when you pat that down. It's just too much spring in the garment. So you have to open it up, unroll it, and then find the package.
You do feel a massive buzz when you do find something, because it just makes you feel like this is what I've come into work for, this is why I'm here, it gives you a sense of purpose.
Training is going well, but David knows not everyone can make the grade.
We're looking for people who are team players predominantly. You're also looking for somebody who really wants to do the job. It's a very difficult, stressful, dirty, sweaty environment into which to work.
Cargo holds like this can store 14,000 containers, equal in volume to a 44-mile-long train. And each type of vessel holds different challenges for the deep rummage teams.
We have ships that come into the UK that carry fruits, for example, avocados, pineapples. And to keep the fruit fresh on those, then some ships have their holds pumped full of nitrogen, which means that it doesn't support life. So for those sorts of ships, there's dangers, obviously, atmospheric dangers for people searching those ships.
The trainees now have the tricky task of searching the top deck of the ship. There are plenty of small spaces to hide contraband, and it's testing their skills to the max. It's not long before Team A make a discovery.
I can see something up there, but I don't know if that's a door or not.
Yeah, so that'll be a vent from there. There's like a store up there.
Just
trying to get into the actual package itself. It's quite a small, really small area. There's a big box down at the back. Holly's just opened up the box and there's about 10,000 cigarettes. So it's concealed right down the bottom.
The teams search a large air vent and find a length of fishing line. At the end of it, a bag of contraband.
It surprises me the level of risk that people are prepared to take. But actually what you find is that it doesn't matter what people are trying to smuggle, whether it's cigarettes or cocaine or weapons, the methods, the concealment would be as technical, irrespective of the commodity that people are trying to hide.
In 2015, the Deep Rummage team, together with the National Crime Agency and Navy, got their biggest sculp to date. 3.2 tons of cocaine were seized from a Turkish vessel called the Hamal off the Scottish coast. The haul had a street value of £550 million.
That's the UK record for a commercial seizure of cocaine on a ship. So the National Deep Rummage teams actually hold the record internationally for the largest ever drug seizure on a ship.
It's the end of a long day training.
All very good jobs, no problems with it, and you found almost all of it. So well done.
And staying one step ahead is a constant challenge for the teams, tasked with protecting the UK borders.
The way that they're doing it is very adaptive. What you found last week won't be the same mechanism of hiding it will be different this week. So we have to adapt and learn more and more to do this. We can never stand still and believe that we know what's going on, and that's what keeps us interested.
That's incredible how they find things in such small spaces, rather them than me. Right, lots more to come this morning, including 30 years after she was murdered on a train. Can you help find Debbie Lindsley's killer?
At the time of her death, she had everything going for her. Life will never be complete again.
And Michelle will be on patrol with Merseyside's mini police as they put the brakes on speeding drivers. But first, it's estimated that there are more than 5 million CCTV cameras in the UK. And as we know well here on Crimewatch Roadshow, they can be a vital tool in the fight against crime, but only if they're used properly. DI Michael Dougal joins me now, and you're the head of the Met Police's video unit, so you must see an awful lot of CCTV.
Yes, that's right, Rev, I have. CCTV comes for a variety of offences, from shoplifting to priority crime, burglary, robbery, up to murder investigations, and others team of specialist trained officers to view that footage and to take out the vital information.
OK. When you view that much footage, you must see the quality ranges quite a bit.
That's right. For public houses and betting offices, council CCTV, that tends to be a very good quality.
So the sort of the commercial side
The commercial side, yeah.
But when it comes to people's homes...
When it comes to the domestic side of things, it's not always the same as the standard, because people tend to have it installed and then the novelty wears off of showing everyone on their smartphones and etc. And then, they're not actually as clean, the cameras, and they should just clean the cameras with a damp cloth to keep them visible.
Well, we can see an example of what you mean right now, actually. Let's have a look at this first clip. This is real CCTV. Michael, just talk me through what this is, please.
Yeah, this is a piece of footage which was my last murder investigation last year, and you can see, without stating the obvious, that the camera position has dropped. It's at 90 degrees,
yeah.
Which is obviously affected by the elements, rain, snow, ice, birds and stuff like that, keep on the cameras and alter the position.
So it's almost like it's been installed and they've forgotten about it, but of course that image now could be absolutely crucial. It was a murder investigation.
That's right. The footage on that camera was the first camera that actually started the investigation, and you can see from the cobwebs it just needs to be clean.
Yeah.
So just look after your cameras and make sure they're all clean.
It's OK. Let's have another clip here. This is also real CCTV. Again, we can see the cobwebs all over this one, but there is a figure that's just left the shot there. Tell us what this one is.
This is a burglar in Tower Hamlets earlier this year, and you can see the footage, the suspect walks behind the cobweb. Had that cobweb not been there, that could have given us the vital evidence that we actually needed.
And it's something so simple, isn't it? Just cleaning that off. So what can we do with the actual recording element of our CCTV?
OK, CCTV comes with three main components. You have the camera that records information, then you have a box called a DVR or an NVR if it's a network system, and inside that box you have a hard drive. My advice is to make sure that that hard drive is big enough to record the information from those cameras you have installed. Because I'll give an example. If you have a family holiday for 2 weeks of a year and you've not checked the capacity of the hard drive recording information and an incident happens in your absence, when you return, you may be very disappointed that that footage is actually not recorded on that hard drive. But also keep it under lock and key or security in a loft.
Because you don't want the thieves to get in there and to take it.
You don't want the thieves to take that with them.
Michael, great advice. We had to leave it there for time, but thank you for coming in today. Let's go back to Michelle.
Thanks, Rav. Now, I'm here at a training facility in Merseyside where officers learn how to protect themselves in all different kinds of scenarios. That could include full-on rioting to self-defence. The facilities here are very impressive, actually. As you can see, I'm in a mock nightclub. The atmosphere is about to turn. It's about to get a bit rowdy. And I'm here with Matrix Training Officer Paul Mealer. So set the scene for me, Paul. What are we about to see?
OK, the scenario that we've got planned today is an intervention team entry into potentially violent premises in order to facilitate the arrest of yourself, who has got warning signs for being violent towards members of the public and the police. You're going to be our wanted female today. OK,
well, this is going to be interesting being on this side of it. But this kind of demo exercise, I mean, it's quite a lot of physical activity involved in your training overall, isn't it? And we saw your guys going through an intense regime earlier. What was that about?
Yeah, disruption team officers that twice a year undertake what we call an endurance and a shield run. So it's 10 laps of our arena in full public order kit, carrying shields.
Full kit?
Yeah, it can get a bit warm, especially on days like today, but it's in order to ensure that everyone is got their correct levels of fitness in order to do the specialist roles.
It's got to be done, hasn't it? Right, so you said I'm going to be involved today. Exactly what is my role?
Yeah, so obviously you're warning signs for being violent. So as the team come in, they'll come in a wedge formation and they'll surround you in essence. They're going to place handcuffs on you, so again you can be a little bit resistant.
OK, because I've got to act rowdy. I'm causing trouble here, aren't I, Paul, at the end of the day?
You know, essentially they're not coming in full public order kit because you're innocent.
Right, OK.
So the team comes in now, obviously they're going to target you.
Right. Oh, no!
So Michelle's been handcuffed to the rear by the team. Obviously, other officers now will produce what we call a bubble around, basically a protective cordon in order that we can extricate the prisoner out of the premises.
Cuffed.
And whilst we're doing that, also keep the rest of the crowd within the premises. So it relies on lots of communication. Again, it can get a little bit rowdy. We've removed one of their team, so to speak. Ideal pace, not too rushed. Once we're outside, again, that protective cordon will stay around the arrested person.
Paul, that was really interesting, actually. It was a slick operation. I can imagine, you know, in real life, you're dealing with really rowdy customers, so it needs to be quite forceful in order for it to work properly.
Yeah, obviously, during any use of force needs to be proportionate and necessary, and we'll only use what is necessary for that. But yeah, communication is key for when we're going into rowdy premises like that. But also that tactic can be used in an open environment, such as going into large crowds for demonstrations, football.
Loads of things out there. Thank you very much. It's great to see. Hopefully, Ralph, they'll take these cuffs off me. Back to you.
30 years ago, a young woman, Debbie Lindsley, was brutally murdered on a train in broad daylight. Despite a huge police operation, no one has ever been brought to justice for the crime, and her devastated family have never found out why she was killed. Sadly, Debbie's mum, Marguerite, died without any answers, but police are hoping that on this milestone anniversary, someone somewhere will be able to give them the breakthrough they need.
Debbie was vivacious, popular, generous and kind. She was a natural leader. She had a very successful career, and really at the time of her death, she had everything going for her.
"26-year-old Debbie Lindsley worked as a hotel manager in Edinburgh. Although her family lived in Kent, she was very close to them and was looking forward to her brother Gordon's wedding.
She looked very lovely and she was very excited at being a bridesmaid. She was very close to her brother. And from her point of view, a very exciting time. Debbie and Gordon probably were more friends than brother and sister.
In March 1988, Debbie was murdered. Debbie was staying at her family home in Bromley, Kent, while she completed a training course. On her way back to Edinburgh, she decided to pop into London for the day. At around 2 p.m. on the 23rd of March, her brother Gordon dropped her off at Petts Wood railway station. That was the last time she was seen alive. Police know she bought a ticket just after 2 p.m. and the train left the station at 2:18. 30 years ago, trains still had individual compartments. Debbie sat in one at the front of the second carriage so that she could have a cigarette. There's nothing to suggest she was disturbed for the first part of her journey, partly because police believe she smoked at least one cigarette and started a sandwich. But after the train left Brixton, a French girl in the compartment next to Debbie's reported hearing screams that lasted for about 2 minutes. She told police she'd wanted to pull the cord, but was too shocked to move. When the train arrived at Victoria, the French girl spotted a man with red hair walking away from near Debbie's compartment. She followed him, but lost sight of him on the concourse. Meanwhile, the train was being checked for luggage. It was then that Debbie's body was discovered. She'd been stabbed to death.
In the middle of dinner, there was a knock at the door, and Marguerite went to answer the door. And when she actually got there, there were 2 policemen and a policewoman on the doorstep. It was such a shock that I lost my memory. I suppose I was like a zombie. I didn't remember anything about anything. Marguerite, she stopped eating and she became very, very skeletal. She didn't really have a decent meal in something like 3 weeks.
A Crimewatch appeal at the time reconstructed her last known movements.
3 weeks ago, Debbie Lindsley was murdered in broad daylight.
Police have established that Debbie's attacker was injured in the struggle. A man with a cut face was seen walking away from platform 2 10 minutes after the train had pulled in, around 3 p.m. Later that afternoon, in the gents' toilets at Victoria, another witness spotted a man cleaning a cut on his head. Police still don't know if either of these sightings was significant. Since her death, 1,200 statements have been taken, and almost everyone on the train has been accounted for. But Debbie's killer still hasn't been found.
The things I miss really are her charisma, her companionship, and the visits of her various friends. It's a bit like losing a limb. You still live, but in fact it's not quite the same. There's a part missing, isn't there? I'll never walk my daughter down the aisle for her wedding, and I will never have her children as grandchildren. So your life will never be complete again. I'd like to have justice and closure before I die.
Yeah, horrific case, and I'm joined by DI Susan Stansfield, who's the head of the Met Special Casework Investigation Unit. And after all this time, do you have any idea what the motive could have been for this attack?
No, we don't really. We believe Debbie was attacked. It was a random attack on her, possibly a sexual assault, maybe a robbery. But saying that, we think on the suspect's behalf it was probably premeditated in the fact that they had a knife with them, you know, a large knife that they used in the attack, and that's never been found.
Yeah, of course, no one has the right to go around carrying a large knife anywhere. Yeah. Well, let's have a look at the specifics of the journey. Remind us where she took the train from and what the journey was.
Started in Pettswood, which is in Bromley in Kent, and then she got on at Pettswood.
It's going up to Victoria Station, quite a busy station.
Yeah.
And it's along towards the end of that journey where you believe the attack most probably took place.
We do. Debbie was in a single carriage, went through 10 stops on the journey there. We don't have any witnesses that saw her on the train. However, we do have, as you saw in the reconstruction, the French girl who heard the screams, and they were between Brixton and Victoria. So we believe that's more than likely when the attack took place.
Also on the reconstruction, there was mention of 2 males that may or may not be of significance to you. Are you still looking for those?
We certainly are. Any information, you know, please ring in if you do have information on names of those people. However, there was a football match taking place in London that day, and they could well be football fans that, you know, were having a scuffle, and they're not related to Debbie's murder.
OK. How can the public help you today?
Well, Debbie was a much-loved young woman. This attack took place 30 years ago, but that doesn't matter whether it took place then or it took place yesterday. We want information about this murder. If anybody out there has information, please don't think because they've had it that long that we already know it or that it's not important. Please call in and let me and my team be the judge of how important that information is.
They're also not going to get anyone into any trouble over this if they're not the right person, because you can eliminate them quite easily as well.
We can, because from the crime scene we have some DNA there that doesn't belong to Debbie. And we believe that could be the suspect's DNA. So you're quite right. You know, call in with a name or with a person.
And also,
they
if they need any more incentive, briefly, there is also a reward.
There is a reward of £20,000 for information that leads to an arrest and a conviction.
OK, well, thank you. If you do have any information, please do get in touch on the usual numbers, or you can speak directly to Susan's team now on 0207 230 4294. Michelle.
Now, we've got some very special guests on the programme this morning. We're joined by members of the Merseyside's mini police force team. They're taking part in some training exercises here today involving speeding and catching people who are driving too fast. I'm also joined by Sergeant Keith Burke. Now, you're the force coordinator here, so tell me a bit more about the idea behind it all.
The idea is it's a fun and unique opportunity for children aged 9 to 11 to engage with the local police, find out more about what we actually do, learn about what we do and getting involved in things in the local community.
So why is it so important for them to be doing things like this at such an early age?
It's been identified, Merseyside Police identified that this is a critical age really for children, you know, for us to be able to engage with children rather than them just seeing us enforcing the law and doing sort of the nasty side of things, that we do a lot of engagement with things and things to actually help their communities.
And the mini police force is actually expanding, isn't it?
Oh, rapidly. We have 10 schools here on Merseyside, 200 children. We've got another 6 launching later in the year, 10 regions across the country. I think it's about 100 schools are actually on board with the initiative now because they see how successful it actually is.
That's brilliant. And what kind of activities do you do?
Well, the children get involved in 3 sort of events during a term. One would be a force-led initiative, like it could be internet safety, like coming up to the summer holidays. The children will teach other kids in school about water safety and how important it is not to be jumping into lakes, rivers. They do speeding initiatives like you're seeing here today and local parking initiatives outside local schools, you know, to keep kids safe.
Yes. Fantastic. So talk me through how this is going to work then.
Well, they're obviously just practising for a speeding initiative here today, where they actually pull over motorists who actually seem to be exceeding the speed limit. They're actually educating rather than enforcing, not giving tickets out, but telling people, you know, how bad it is to actually speed and the consequences of doing that.
OK, well, let's have a little listen to Louis here as he does his job.
We are the Merseysided Mini Police Team and we're carrying out Community Awareness Day. Can I ask if this your vehicle?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
The vehicle that is registered to you was monitored by us and found to be an exceeding speed limit. Are you
He's
aware
doing
of the
such a
speed
good job.
Yeah, fantastic.
I'm
It's the
gonna
enthusiasm of the kids is great.
Sorry to interrupt you here, Lou, but I just have to say you're doing a fantastic job. What is it that you enjoy about being a part of the mini police force?
Learning about